The story begins on a quiet morning in the far edge of the galaxy, on a colony known as Velaran Reach. It was a place that once promised hope. People had come there dreaming of building new homes, new farms, new lives. But the promise had slowly faded. Seasons of harsh storms ruined crops. Energy systems began to fail one after another, and the colony's old defenses were falling apart faster than anyone could fix them. Most days, the people just tried to keep going. They didn't have many choices left. On this particular morning, the air inside the Central Council building felt heavy. Members of the council sat in a long half-circle, staring at screens filled with warnings: failing power grids, low food storage, unstable communications, and sightings of unknown ships approaching the outer system. Some citizens had already begun leaving the settlements, trying to find safer places deeper inside the colony, though there were hardly any. The colony was fragile from end to end. At the center of the room stood the council's senior coordinator, a calm but tired individual who had been trying for many weeks to hold everything together. Their face carried the same worn-out look shared by most people in the colony. They cleared their throat and spoke quietly, as if saying the words too loudly would make everything feel even more real. "We cannot keep waiting," they said. "If help does not come soon, our systems will collapse. We must send out the distress call." Some members of the council looked down at the table. Others closed their eyes, as if finally admitting defeat. Everyone had known this moment was coming, but no one wanted to be the one to say it. One of the council members raised a soft, hesitant voice. "If we send it now, who do you think will hear it?" Everyone knew exactly who they wanted to hear it: the Coalition. The Coalition was seen as peaceful, diplomatic, gentle. Their aid ships carried medicine, food, engineers, and stabilizers. They specialized in helping failing colonies rebuild, but there was a problem. Coalition ships were often busy in other corners of the galaxy, helping thousands of planets at once. And they were slow, very slow. It could take weeks or months for them to arrive, even if they answered right away. Still, the council had hope. They always had hope for the Coalition. It was almost like wishing on a star that sometimes listened. Another council member shook their head. "We may need to accept help from anyone who hears us." At once, the room tensed. They all knew who might hear the call besides the Coalition. Humans. Even the thought made everyone shift. Nervously, the humans known across many worlds as Deathworlders came from a planet considered one of the most dangerous in the galaxy. Their bodies were strong, their endurance unusual, and their emotions fierce in ways other species didn't entirely understand. People told stories about them, some true, many exaggerated. Stories of humans walking through storms that would kill other species, or working in environments so harsh they seemed impossible to survive. There were even tales of humans treating danger like it was normal, almost casual. To the people of Velaran Reach, humans were mysterious and unpredictable. Not evil, not cruel, just a little overwhelming. Their presence alone felt like a force of nature. "Humans move quickly," one council member whispered. "If they hear the call before the Coalition does, they might come first. And we cannot risk frightening our people further," another replied. The coordinator listened to them all, absorbing their fears. But something deeper pushed them to speak again. "We have children starving in the lower district. We have hospitals without working cooling systems. Last night, one of the energy plants broke down completely. If we keep waiting, we won't have a colony left to save." Silence filled the room again. A difficult, painful silence. In that silence, everyone realized that pride no longer mattered. Fear no longer mattered. Survival was the only thing left. The coordinator finally gave the order. "Send the signal." The communications officer nodded and turned to the main console. Fingers moved carefully over the controls. The emergency beacon, an ancient device rarely used, powered up with a low hum that vibrated through the floor. Lights blinked. A soft tone echoed across the building. A message, written in the calmest language possible, began broadcasting into deep space. This is Veleron Reach. We request immediate humanitarian aid. Our systems are failing. Our people are at risk. We welcome peaceful assistance from any recognized member of the galactic community. The room watched as the beacon sent the message again and again, radiating outward like a fragile whisper into the endless dark. After the signal was sent, there was no celebration. No one felt relieved. They knew it could take days before anyone responded. And they also knew that the first ships to arrive might not be who they expected. Hours passed, then half a day, then an entire night. People tried to continue their routines, though nothing felt routine anymore. Farmers checked their failing soil processors. Teachers tried to comfort anxious students. Engineers worked with dim lights to repair old power lines. Parents sat awake, listening to the weak hum of generators that could stop at any moment. Everyone kept one ear open for any announcement from the council. The next morning, gray clouds drifted slowly across the sky. Early workers walked through the streets, trying not to look as tired as they felt. And then, just as the sun began rising above the horizon, a low rumble stirred the air. It wasn't from inside the colony. It wasn't machinery. It wasn't thunder. It came from the sky. People stopped walking. Children froze in place. Eyes lifted upward. Something massive was descending through the clouds. Not one ship, but many. Dark metal silhouettes cutting through the atmosphere with sharp precision. The kind of precision that only one species was known for. The first recognition came not from sight, but from sound-heavy engines built for speed and strength. Not gentle landings or soft tones. A whisper spread across the settlement like wind. They're humans. Humans have come. The Velerans expected to feel relief. They had asked for help, after all. But instead, their hearts pounded with confusion and fear. The humans' arrival was fast. Too fast. Faster than the Coalition could ever respond. It felt sudden, intense, overwhelming. Council alarms activated. Citizens ran for shelter, not because the humans were attacking, but because no one was prepared to face them. Their stories had created an image of a species that survived by force of will alone, strong, determined, unstoppable. The council rushed to the landing platform, trying to restore order. The coordinators stood at the front, still trying to appear calm, even as their hands trembled a little. The ships slowed and settled on the ground with practiced grace. The dust settled. A ramp lowered. A group of tall, suited human responders stepped out. Their helmets shifted open, revealing faces that looked serious but not unkind. Their uniforms carried the symbol for emergency aid, not military force. At their lead was a human officer. She walked with a firm stride, eyes scanning the surroundings with sharp awareness. When she spoke, her voice was clear and direct, not loud but confident. "We received your distress call," she said. "We're here to help." The words were simple, but the way she said them straightforward, with no hesitation, felt strange to the council. Humans had a way of speaking that left no space for doubts. It made some Velerans feel safe and others feel uneasy. The coordinator stepped forward, trying to match her steady tone. "We appreciate your quick arrival. We did not expect it so soon." The human officer nodded. Humans don't like leaving people waiting when they're in danger. "We come fast." And that statement alone made every Veleron exchange nervous glances. The humans didn't talk like diplomats. They didn't soften their tone. They didn't hide urgency behind formal language. This was the first moment the Velerans realized something important. The humans had come not because they wanted recognition or reward. But because the Valorans needed help and humans reacted to need faster than almost any species in the galaxy. But even with that realization, a new tension grew inside the coordinator. The humans had arrived first, not the coalition, not the calm, gentle helpers they had hoped for. The humans were here strong, determined, unpredictable, and no one knew yet if this was a blessing or the beginning of a new fear. When the human ships landed, the whole colony held its breath. No one had expected help to arrive so quickly, and certainly not from the species most people only knew through intense rumors and dramatic stories. For a long moment, the quiet wind across the landing platform was the only sound anyone heard. Even the usual background noise of generators and traffic seemed to fade. The council stood in a stiff line, unsure how to greet guests who were both feared and hoped for. Some citizens watched from a distance, half hidden behind buildings or walls. They didn't want to get too close, but curiosity kept them from looking away. The human officer who had stepped out earlier waited calmly, eyes moving across the structure of the colony, the cracked pavement, the flickering lights, the worn-down towers that were once bright and new. She seemed to study everything carefully, almost like she was scanning for hidden problems. Humans had that way of focusing intensely on whatever was in front of them. It wasn't threatening, but it was powerful. Direct. The coordinator swallowed gently and stepped forward. "Thank you for responding to our call," they said in the most steady voice they could manage. "We respond to all calls like this," the human officer replied. "Danger, crisis, collapse, humans try to help where we can. You don't have to worry. We didn't come for anything other than to give support." Her honesty sounded sharp, almost like a blade, but the intention behind it felt sincere. That was the strange thing about humans. They spoke simply, but the meaning carried so much weight. Even so, the people of Valeron Reach couldn't ignore the stories they had grown up hearing. Humans could survive extreme environments. Humans could push through pain. Humans didn't stop when others would. It wasn't that they were violent or cruel. It was that they were intense. Too intense at times. One council member whispered to another, "They're already studying the colony. Look at their eyes. They're analyzing everything we do." The human officer noticed the whisper, but didn't react. She simply continued observing the surroundings with concern. Her team behind her spread out a little, opening equipment cases, setting up communication terminals, and preparing scanners. Everything happened fast and efficiently. Humans didn't waste time. The coordinator kept their voice neutral. "We expected the coalition to respond." "We know," the officer answered softly. "They're slower. They have a lot to manage right now. We were closer to your region, so we came first." She paused like she was choosing her next words carefully. "If the coalition arrives, we'll work with them. We don't replace anyone. We just fill the space until they get here." That was meant to be comforting, yet it made several council members uneasy. Humans didn't seem to hesitate at all. They didn't ask if they were welcome. They didn't wait to be invited inside. They already acted like the colony's safety was partly their responsibility. It was a strange, overwhelming kind of kindness. And once again, it reminded the Valorans why humans were known as Deathworlders. Their instinct to act quickly, forcefully, and without second thoughts came from growing up on a world where hesitation meant danger. It wasn't aggression. It was survival, but it looked the same to people who didn't understand them. One of the citizens, a young maintenance worker, whispered from behind a supply crate, "They look normal. Not like the stories." Another replied, "Yeah, but wait until they start doing something impossible. They always do." The fear wasn't hateful, it was caution. The Valorans were peaceful by nature, slower to act, gentler in tone. The humans felt like fire compared to soft lantern light. The coordinator gestured for the humans to follow them inside the council building. As the group walked, the people watching from the shadows stepped aside quickly. Some bowed their heads awkwardly. Others peeked over shoulders. One child stared openly, wide-eyed, at the tall humans as if they were mythical creatures. Inside the building, the lights flickered again, something everyone on the colony was used to by now. The humans looked up immediately, scanning the ceiling, checking for problems. One of them reached for a wrist tool, ready to fix something even without knowing what it was. The Velerans exchanged nervous glances. The council entered a long chamber with curved walls and a low central platform. It was a modest room, but it was all they had left functioning. Worn-down screens flickered with maps of the colony. Nearly every map had red warning marks. The human officer studied them, her brow tightening. "Your systems are worse than your message suggested." The coordinator looked away. "We didn't want to sound desperate. You should have." Her reply wasn't rude. It was straightforward, honest, maybe too honest. "We could have sent more people." For a moment, no one spoke. The humans' ability to say things directly was something the Velerans were still adjusting to. They weren't used to such blunt truth. In Veleron culture, softness was respect. In human culture, clarity was respect. The officer stepped closer to one of the screens and tapped the main energy map. "Your grid is failing across the upper settlements." She pointed to another area. "This district has almost no food left." The coordinator nodded slowly. "We prioritized sending out the signal first." The officer let out a gentle breath. Not frustration, more like concern. "You did the right thing. And we're here now." The simplicity of the promise made the council shift uneasily once again. Humans didn't say things lightly. If they said, "We're here now," it meant they were ready to take responsibility. That alone felt heavy while the council discussed the situation. A small group of Veleron citizens gathered outside the chamber windows, watching through the transparent glass. They whispered among themselves. "They talk like they own the place," someone murmured. "No," another replied softly. "They talk like they've already decided to help, whether we believe in them or not." Back inside, the conversation continued quietly. "We are grateful for your arrival," the coordinator said carefully. "But we must ask, why so fast?" Humans don't usually respond before the coalition. The officer seemed surprised by the question. "Because you needed help. That's all. We were between assignments. When we heard your signal, we made the decision to come immediately." One council member frowned. "Just like that? Without asking anyone?" "We ask permission when we arrive," she said, "but not when someone's in danger." Again, the room fell into silence. There was a truth about humans that many species didn't understand. Humans treated distress calls as personal responsibilities, not distant problems. They didn't wait for perfect plans. They didn't wait for orders from above. They reacted, and that reaction was what frightened the Velerans the most, because it was too fast, too strong, too certain. The coordinator tried to change the tone. "We will arrange housing for you and your team." "No need," the officer said. "Our ships have supplies. We won't burden your already strained resources." Another council member whispered, "They're too prepared." "It's almost intimidating." The officer glanced toward him. "We prepare because we want to make things easier for the people we help, not harder." Her voice softened. The council noticed it immediately. For the first time since the humans arrived, a gentle warmth touched her expression. "Look," she continued, "we know other species worry about us. We know we're different. Stronger, faster, less fragile. But that doesn't mean we're here to take over anything. We're just here because you need support. That's all." The coordinator felt something stir inside them, relief, maybe, or at least the beginning of trust. "We appreciate your honesty," they said. The officer nodded once, and stepped back. Suddenly, an alert tone came through the council chamber speaker. A colony technician rushed in with wide eyes. "We have movement near the outer edge of the system," he said breathlessly. "We don't know what it is yet." The room tensed instantly. Citizens outside began murmuring anxiously, trying to see through the windows. Council members exchanged fearful looks. No one liked surprises in a situation already this fragile. The human officer tilted her head slightly. "Do you have a visual?" The technician shook his head. "Not yet. Our long-range scanners are failing again." Without waiting for permission, one of the humans behind the officer tapped a small device on their wrist, bringing up a portable holographic map. "We can scan it," they said simply. The Velerans stared in surprise. Portable long-range scanners were rare and expensive. Yet the humans had them casually strapped to their equipment. In seconds, a projection filled the air clearer than anything the colony's own systems could produce. A bright dot pulsed near the edge of the map. The human officer studied it, her posture calm. "It's nothing dangerous. Just a drifting transport. No life signs. Probably abandoned long ago." The technician let out a shaky breath of relief. "Our systems couldn't confirm that. We thought it might be something else. That's why we came," the officer said softly. "To take some of the fear off your shoulders." And for the first time since the humans arrived, several council members actually relaxed. The coordinator felt it too. A gentle, unexpected comfort. The humans were strange. They were intense. They were overwhelming. But in that moment, it became clear they were also steady, reliable. They didn't panic. They didn't hesitate. They didn't add fear, they reduced it. Even so, not everyone was convinced. Some citizens whispered among themselves as the humans left the chamber to unload equipment. They came too. Fast. They're too confident. They're planning something. Fear still lived inside the colony. Trust wouldn't come quickly. And yet, deep inside, a small hope was beginning to grow. Maybe, just maybe, the humans hadn't come to scare them. Maybe they truly had come to help. And in the days ahead, the colony would discover just how different humans really were. For the first day after the humans arrived, most of the colony stayed nervous but curious. People watched them from windows, from rooftops, from behind half-open doors. Everywhere the humans went, eyes followed them. They didn't walk like visitors. They didn't walk like tourists. They moved like people on a mission, focused, calm, and already planning 10 steps ahead. Certain citizens whispered that the humans were too confident. Others whispered that maybe confidence wasn't a bad thing. Not when the colony had spent so long being afraid. But no one truly knew what to think yet. The humans worked around the clock. They checked the failing systems, surveyed the damaged structures, and talked to citizens with surprising patience. Even when someone asked the same question 3 times, the humans repeated their explanations without irritation. It was unexpected, almost confusing. The rumors had made humans seem harsh, but in reality, they seemed practical and steady. Their seriousness came from wanting to fix things, not from wanting control. The council building remained busy. Reports came in constantly. Food running low in the southern district, power banks overheating, small transport vehicles breaking down without spare parts. The colony had too many problems and too few hands. That was why the humans had come. But there was one problem no one wanted to talk about out loud. The sightings near the outer region of space. Every now and then, the scanners would catch a faint signal. Sometimes it disappeared. Sometimes it turned out to be nothing. Sometimes it was something small, like an empty ship drifting through space. But the fact that the signals appeared at all made the whole colony uneasy. During an afternoon meeting, inside the council chamber, the human officer stood near the large map screen, reviewing updates from her team. The coordinator stood beside her, while council members took seats around the room. Everyone looked serious. "Your solar fields on the East Ridge are giving out," one council member said quietly. "We tried fixing them ourselves, but the weather damage was worse than expected." "We can help," the officer said. "We've repaired worse." Another council member raised a hand. "Is your team comfortable working in our climate? The storms here can be unpredictable." The officer gave a small smile. "Humans grew up dealing with unpredictable weather. We'll manage." Her tone was steady, warm but firm, and once again the council couldn't decide if it made them more comfortable or more nervous. Humans had an ease about danger that didn't make sense to other species. Suddenly, the speaker near the wall crackled. A voice from the control tower called through with a breathless tone. "Council, we're picking up movement again. Same region as before. It might be the same group we detected earlier." The room stiffened. Everyone exchanged glances full of unspoken worry. The coordinator stepped forward. "Do we have a clear reading?" "No, our long-range sensors are still unstable," the voice answered. "We're trying to adjust them." A low murmur spread across the room. People shifted uneasily in their seats. For weeks, the colony had been dealing with silent threats, shadows in the scanner, unidentified signals, quiet fears. They had hoped the humans would bring a sense of safety, but even their presence couldn't erase the colony's long history of anxiety. The human officer tilted her head slightly, thinking. "We can check it," she said. "Our ships have stronger sensors." The council members looked at one another. Even though she meant to help, they weren't used to someone stepping in so quickly. Their culture valued slow decision-making and gentle discussions. Humans preferred quick solutions. It was a difference that kept catching the council off guard. The coordinator nodded slowly. "Please do." The officer pressed a small device on her wrist. A moment later, a holographic display appeared in the air, a bright, clear map showing the region the colony couldn't scan properly. Colored dots floated softly on the display, showing different types of signals. Her team at the landing platform sent updates instantly. The officer watched the information scroll across her device. "It's movement," she said softly, "but not toward us. It's circling the outskirts." A council member leaned forward. "Do you know what it is?" "Not yet," she replied. "But it doesn't look like something we need to panic about. If it were coming in fast, I'd say something different." Her calm tone eased some tension. Humans had that strange ability to treat danger like something familiar, something manageable. And that gave the Valorans a kind of comfort they didn't expect. Still, the unknown movement in space was unsettling. The council began speaking quietly among themselves. What if they're scouts? What if they're just passing through? What if they're watching? No one had answers. Fear of the unknown was more powerful than anything else in the colony. It had been that way for months. The officer listened to the whispers and finally spoke again. "Whatever it is, we're here. You're not alone." Her words were simple, yet they carried more weight than a long speech. But even as she spoke, a soft alarm beeped on her wrist. She glanced down. A message from one of her team members read, "Minor conflict detected in the outer region. Looks like an accidental flare. Nothing dangerous." She didn't read it out loud. She didn't want to create unnecessary worry. Instead, she addressed the council gently. "It seems like we're picking up small disturbances, but none are heading our way." The coordinator exhaled slowly. "That's a relief." But just as relief spread across the room, another voice from the control tower came through the speakers. "We're seeing something else. A bright flash. Could be a warning signal. The direction is unclear." The council members stared at each other with wide eyes. A warning signal meant trouble, but no one knew if the trouble was big or small, near or far, real or imagined. The human officer stepped closer to the window and looked out at the sky as if she could see through the clouds. She didn't seem alarmed. She didn't run for cover. She simply observed, analyzing, thinking deeply. Her calmness didn't erase the colony's fear, but it softened it. One council member whispered to another, "Humans treat danger like it's normal." The other replied softly, "Maybe that's why they came, because to them, helping in dangerous places is normal." The officer turned back to the council. "We'll send a drone to get a clear reading. Our equipment can reach further than yours. We'll keep the skies watched until we understand exactly what's going on." Her offer surprised some of the council members. They didn't expect humans to take responsibility so smoothly, so naturally. "Why?" one of them asked without thinking. "Why are you doing all this? You don't even know us." The officer paused, as if reflecting on the question. Then she said, "Because someone needs help. That's enough." Her answer was simple, but it touched something in the coordinator's chest, something like hope or gratitude, or maybe even trust. It was difficult to tell. Outside, citizens watched the humans preparing their drones and scanners. Some of the citizens whispered nervously, "Are they sending out something dangerous?" "No, it's just a drone. Why do they move like that? So fast? Maybe fast is good. Maybe we need fast now." A few children watched with wide eyes, whispering to each other in excitement. "Look, they're launching something. It's floating. It lights up." The drone rose smoothly into the air, glowing softly in the dim atmosphere. There was no loud noise, no shaking ground, just a quiet hum as it climbed higher and higher until it disappeared into the sky. The colony stood still, feeling a mixture of fear and fascination. The humans weren't performing magic. They weren't doing anything impossible. They were simply using tools and knowledge the colony didn't have. Yet somehow, their presence felt like a shield, like the colony's silent fears were now held by someone strong enough to understand them. Back inside the council chamber, the officer waited quietly. Minutes passed. Then her wrist device lit up again. She checked the drone's data. She smiled a little. "It's nothing dangerous," she said. "Just a drifting signal from an old beacon. You're safe." A long collective breath filled the room. For the first time in months, relief came not with doubt, but with certainty. Still, the uneasy truth remained. The humans had answered the call before the allies the Velarans expected. The humans were watching the skies. The humans were responding to danger. The humans were acting like protectors. And the colony still didn't know whether they were ready to trust them fully. But one thing was clear: when something stirred in the dark sky, the first reaction came not from the Velarans, but from the humans. They didn't hesitate. They didn't panic. They didn't run. They simply stepped forward. And the colony watched closely, slowly beginning to understand why humans were known across the galaxy, not as monsters, not as threats, but as the ones who always ran toward trouble when others ran away. The next few days changed the colony in ways no one expected. When the humans first arrived, people kept their distance, watching from far away and whispering about every move they made. But slowly, something small began to shift. It wasn't trust, not yet. It was more like curiosity mixed with cautious hope. The humans were everywhere repairing old pipes, setting up clean water systems, fixing power lines, and checking roof supports that had been weak for years. They didn't complain about the heat or the dust. They didn't talk about how tiring the work was. They just worked steadily, like they were used to long hours and broken systems. When they walked through the streets, citizens stared but didn't run. Some still stepped aside quickly, unsure of how close they were supposed to stand near humans. Others tried to act normal, but their eyes always stayed alert. Even so, the fear that once filled the air wasn't as thick anymore. The humans weren't loud or pushy. They were careful, almost gentle, in strange ways. One of the people who noticed this change the most was a young Velaran medic named Terrell. They worked in the colony's health center, a building that used to be bright and clean, but now had flickering lights and equipment held together with tape and hope. Terrell had been there when the power went out last week, and they had treated patients with only a small lantern lighting the room. When the humans first came to the medical center, Terrell felt nervous. Humans had a reputation for treating injuries in ways that sounded extreme to other species. Stories said they stayed awake during recovery, walked around with sprains like nothing happened, or kept going long after someone else would have collapsed. Terrell didn't know if those stories were true, but the idea of watching humans treat patients made them uneasy. But when the human medics arrived, they didn't behave like the stories said. They walked in calmly, carrying boxes of clean supplies and machines that hummed softly. They greeted everyone with warm nods and short, friendly smiles. Their eyes were focused, not wild or intense. They didn't push their methods on anyone. They simply asked, "How can we help?" Terrell stood at the side of the room at first, observing cautiously. The lead human medic opened a small case filled with organized tools. Everything was clean, labeled, and arranged with care. They quickly set up a portable scanning device that glowed blue as it activated. The room lit up gently. One of the Valeron doctors whispered, "I've never seen something like that." The human medic smiled kindly. "It's old tech where we come from, but it works well." Terrell watched the humans move through the room, checking on patients with calm voices. They didn't rush. They didn't act like they knew everything. They simply helped, step by step, in a quiet, steady way. At one point, a child with a fever was brought in. The mother looked frightened, holding the child close. Humans were known to be huge compared to Velerans, and she seemed unsure about letting them come near. But the human medic knelt down, actually knelt on the floor, to be at eye level with the child. "Hey there," the human said softly. "Is it okay if I check your temperature?" The child blinked, then nodded slowly. The medic scanned them gently with the device. No needles, no loud sounds, no sudden movements. The mother's shoulders lowered just a little. I thought humans treated things differently." "We treat people the way they need to be treated," the medic said. "Always." Terrell expected to feel threatened by the human's confidence. Instead, they felt something else: respect. A quiet kind of respect that grew as they watched the humans help patient after patient with care that seemed almost instinctive. After an hour, Terrell found themselves stepping closer, wanting to learn more. The lead medic noticed and gave a friendly nod. "You work here?" Terrell nodded. "Yes, I've been here for 4 years." "Well," the medic said warmly, "you probably know more about this place than anyone. If you want, you can work beside us." The offer surprised Terrell. They hesitated, but something inside pushed them forward. "I'd like that." From that moment, Terrell spent hours shadowing the human medics. They learned how the humans stayed calm under pressure, how they kept talking to patients, even while working quickly, how they paid attention to both physical symptoms and emotional signals. What shocked Terrell the most was how humans talked to one another. They encouraged each other constantly. "You're doing great. I'll take that task. You rest a moment. Let's figure this out together." There was no ego, no competition, no impatience. Just teamwork, honest and strong. Watching them felt like watching a single unit moving in harmony. Outside the medical center, other citizens were having their own discoveries. In the damaged energy district, a group of Veleron engineers watched a human crawl inside a metal tunnel that had been too hot for anyone else to enter. The human didn't panic. They didn't rush back out. Instead, they called out from inside, "It's not that bad. Just needs some reinforcement. I'll patch it." The engineers stared at each other. One whispered, Isn't that dangerous? Another responded, For us, yes. But for them, I don't know. When the human came back out, they were covered in dust but smiling. It's fixed enough for now, but we should rebuild this part soon. The engineers thanked them shyly, unsure of how to show gratitude to someone so fearless. In the water district, a group of citizens watched humans lift heavy pipes with ease, not showing off, just working. One worker said, It would take 10 of us to do that. Another answered, Humans just do things differently. And in the supply station, a pair of children watched a human mix emergency food packs with clean water. One child whispered, He doesn't even flinch at the smell. The other replied, They're brave. Slowly, quietly, the colony was learning something new about humans. They weren't just strong. They weren't just resilient. They weren't chaotic or wild or frightening in the ways the old stories described. They were caring. And that care wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was shown in the way they worked longer hours than anyone asked them to. In the way they listened to people's worries without judgment. In the way they stayed until every job was done. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Terrell sat outside the medical center with the lead human medic. The sky was orange and purple, glowing softly. How do humans stay so calm? Terrell asked quietly. Even when things look bad? The human looked thoughtful. I don't think we're calm. We're just used to challenges. Our home world taught us to keep going, even when things are difficult. But it also taught us something else. What's that? Terrell asked. That when someone needs help, you step forward. You don't wait. You don't watch. You act. Terrell felt something warm settle in their chest. Is that why you came here so fast? Yes, the medic said simply. Because you needed someone to show up. And we were close. Terrell nodded slowly. The answer made sense. And for the first time since the humans arrived, they felt something deeper trust. Not complete trust, but enough to soften the last edges of fear. Back in the settlements, citizens gathered for the evening meal. For the first time in months, people talked about hopeful things. They mentioned how the lights stayed on longer today, how the water pressure was better, how the medical center felt brighter, and many of them said the same quiet truth. Maybe the humans aren't what we expected. Maybe they weren't dangerous. Maybe they weren't unpredictable. Maybe they were exactly what the colony needed. But even as comfort grew, the truth remained. Shadows still moved in the sky at night. The scanners still flickered. Unknown signals still came and went like whispers. Yet now, when the citizens looked at the horizon, they didn't feel completely alone, because when something strange appeared in the dark, the humans would be the first to see it, the first to analyze it, the first to stand between danger and the colony, and that knowledge made the night feel just a little less frightening. Things in the colony felt calmer for a few days, almost peaceful. People began walking outside without checking over their shoulders every second. Shops opened for longer hours. Children played in the dusty streets again, their laughter echoing between the buildings. It wasn't perfect, not even close, but something heavy had lifted from the atmosphere. The humans noticed it too. They didn't make a big deal about it. They kept working quietly, fixing walls, checking generators, updating old systems, and teaching Velerans new ways to maintain their equipment. They never acted like heroes. They never bragged about anything. They just helped because help was needed. But trouble has a way of returning when everyone starts to relax. Late one night, a strange vibration ran through the colony's outer fences. It wasn't violent or obvious. It was more like a soft, rhythmic pulse, too regular to be natural, too quiet to be comforting. The scanners picked it up immediately, flashing a pale blue warning across every monitoring screen. Most citizens didn't feel it. They were sleeping inside their compact homes, curled under thin blankets while the night wind blew softly outside. But the humans felt it. Instantly, one of them sat up straight, listening carefully. "Did you hear that?" Another nodded. That wasn't normal. Within seconds, their team was awake and gathering their gear. They didn't shout or panic. They moved with quiet urgency, checking their equipment and preparing for whatever might be coming out at the same time. The colony's night guards noticed the faint tremors and sent alerts across the system. The message reached the main tower where Terrell had been helping reorganize supplies. They froze when they saw the signal. It wasn't red, but it wasn't friendly either. It meant unknown presence detected. Tar. L rushed downstairs, heart racing. When they got outside, they found a group of humans already standing by the gates, lights attached to their suits, and small handheld scanners humming softly. Their expressions were focused and unreadable. Not frightened, just aware. Tarell joined them, breath unsteady. "Is it serious?" One of the humans looked at them and spoke calmly. "We're not sure yet, but something is moving out there." The night sky was quiet. The moonlight cast long shadows across the dry ground. The fence stretched out in both directions, glowing faintly with its soft electric field. Beyond it lay the open plains, dark, empty, and endless. At least, they always looked empty. Tonight, something felt wrong. The human holding the scanner studied its readings. The signal is spreading across a wide area, but it's not approaching. It's staying at the same distance. Terrell swallowed hard. Could it be those things from before? Maybe, the human replied. Or maybe it's something else. A few more Velaran guards joined the group. They formed a loose circle near the gate, whispering nervously. Some clutched their weapons with trembling hands. Even though the humans stood calmly, the tension in the air was thick. One of the guards asked, "Should we wake the governor?" "No," the lead guard said firmly. "Not yet. We don't want to cause panic." Terrell looked at the humans again. "Do you want us to help with anything?" The humans exchanged a quick glance, and one of them shook their head. "Stay here for now. If something happens, we might need you to alert the colony." Terrell nodded. Even though their stomach twisted with worry, the humans moved beyond the gate slowly, silently, like shadows blending with the night. They spread out, each scanning different angles of the open plains. Their movements were steady and controlled, as if they had done this hundreds of times before. Terrell watched them, feeling a mixture of fear and strange comfort. Fear, because the unknown was terrifying. Comfort, because humans acted like the unknown was something they were used to facing. Minutes passed. The wind grew stronger, carrying the faint smell of dry soil. The scanners continued to hum. And then one of them beeped sharply. A human raised their hand. "Something's out here." Everyone froze. The guards stepped back instinctively, gripping their weapons. Terrell felt their pulse pounding in their ears. The humans leaned forward slightly, trying to catch any sound or shape in the distance. Another beep, louder, closer, but still not close enough to reveal anything. One of the humans lifted a small drone into the air. It floated up silently, its lights dimmed to avoid drawing attention. It flew toward the source of the signal, scanning the ground carefully. Everyone waited. The drone's feed showed rocks, dust, small plants that struggled to survive, and long cracks in the earth. Nothing unusual. But then the picture froze for half a second. The human controlling it frowned. That shouldn't happen. Terrell took a step closer. What does it mean? It means something interfered with the signal. The drone continued forward, its camera shaking slightly now. The humans adjusted settings, trying to stabilize the image. Then, suddenly, the drone's lights flickered. The screen went black. Terrell gasped softly. What happened? Did something attack it? We don't know, the human replied, voice low but steady. But this isn't normal interference. Something's blocking our tech. A cold silence fell over the group. The humans turned back toward the colony. Everyone inside, now. The guards didn't argue. They hurried toward the gate, pushing it open quickly and rushing in. Terrell followed, heart hammering. The humans came in last, walking backward to keep their eyes on the planes just in case. Once inside, the humans secured the gate and checked the fence controls. The power was still stable. The electric field held strong. But that didn't mean whatever was out there couldn't find a way in. Terrell took a shaky breath. Do you think it's coming closer? One of the humans shook their head. It hasn't moved. That's what worries me. Terrell frowned. Why is that worse? Because things that wait usually plan. The words sent a chill through Terrell's entire body. The humans switched their scanners to a different frequency. Bright lines filled the display patterns, pulses, and small fluctuations. It wasn't random, Dot. It looked like a signal. A message. Or maybe a scan from something searching for weaknesses, Dot, another human said quietly. It's mapping us. Mapping. The word echoed heavily in the air. Terrell looked toward the planes again. But why would something want to map us? The human's response was simple and unsettling. Because it wants to know what it's dealing with. The colony guards had gone pale. One whispered, should we call for reinforcements? The humans shook their heads. Not yet. If we broadcast anything big, we might expose our location even more. Terrell suddenly understood the seriousness of the moment. So what do we do? The humans exchanged looks, communicating silently in a way Terrell had grown used to seeing. Finally, the lead one spoke. We stay alert. We monitor the signal. And we prepare. Prepare for what? Terrell asked. For whatever is planning this. Over the next hour, the humans set up extra scanners around the outer edges of the colony. They moved with speed and precision, barely speaking. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were sharp, watching every shift in the darkness. Meanwhile, citizens began waking up. Lights turned on in windows. Small groups gathered outside homes, confused and sleepy. They whispered to each other, trying to understand why the humans were suddenly so active. The governor eventually arrived, trying to hide the worry in their voice. What's happening? The humans explained the situation with steady, controlled detail. The governor listened, nodding slowly, doing their best to remain composed in front of their people. So this unknown presence, it hasn't entered our territory? Not yet, the humans answered. Do you think it will? We can't assume anything. The governor looked out at the planes, their expression tight. What do you suggest? We stay prepared, the humans repeated. And we stay calm. The governor agreed, but calm wasn't easy. Throughout the night, the strange pulses continued. They never came closer, never moved away. Just a steady pattern, like a quiet heartbeat in the distance. Some citizens gathered on rooftops, staring into the darkness as if expecting something to appear. Others stayed inside, anxious and restless. Children sensed their parents' fear and sat quietly beside them. Terrell stayed with the humans, even though exhaustion pulled at their limbs. Something inside them refused to walk away. They wanted to understand. They wanted to help. And somewhere deep down, they wanted to stand beside the humans the same way the humans always stood beside everyone else. As dawn slowly colored the sky with a pale yellow glow. The pulses stopped. Suddenly. Completely. Like someone had turned off a switch. Terrell held their breath. Is that good? The humans exchanged uneasy glances. One of them finally answered. Not necessarily. It might mean the scanning is complete. Terrell's shoulders tensed. So, it learned what it wanted? Yes, the human said quietly. And whatever it is, it might be getting ready. Terrell stared into the fading darkness, feeling cold even in the warm morning air. The plains looked empty again, the same as they had every day before. But now, they knew something unseen had been out there. Watching, studying, waiting. The humans put away their scanners, but didn't relax. Their faces stayed alert, eyes constantly shifting toward the horizon. Tar, Al asked softly, "What happens next?" The human answered with a calm, steady voice, "We find out what wants to meet us." The sun rose slowly over the plains, filling the colony with a weak golden light. Normally, mornings brought a small feeling of comfort, people stepping outside, stretching after a long night, talking quietly with neighbors, sharing warm drinks. But on this morning, no one behaved normally. Most citizens stood outside their homes, tired faces turned toward the strange silence beyond the fences. The unknown presence had stopped sending pulses at dawn, but the fear hadn't stopped with it. Instead, it grew even heavier, because silence often meant something was preparing. The humans didn't relax. They hadn't slept at all. They stood near the outer gate, checking readings again and again, watching the horizon as if expecting something to rise from it any moment. Their eyes were sharp, focused, ready. Tar, Elle approached them slowly, rubbing their tired eyes. Did anything change? One of the humans shook their head. "It's been quiet." "Too quiet." Another added, "This isn't over." Terrell swallowed nervously. Do you think they will come today?" "We have to assume they might." The governor soon joined them, with 2 guards following close behind. The governor spoke softly, trying to hide the stress in their voice. "People are frightened. They keep asking what they should do." One of the humans replied with steady calmness, "Keep everyone inside. Keep them away from the outer fences. And keep communication lines open." The governor nodded. "And what about all of you?" "We'll stay here," the humans answered together. That was something the colony had learned. Quickly, humans didn't retreat when danger approached. They didn't hide, didn't run, didn't wait for someone else to step forward. They stood at the front, no matter what. No one fully understood why. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't recklessness. It was something else, something deep inside them, something shaped by a world far more dangerous than most could imagine. Terrell watched the humans prepare their gear. They checked their suits, tightened straps, scanned their surroundings, and shared quick words with each other, quiet reminders, plans, and calm encouragements. "You ready?" "Yes, stay alert." "We stay together." Their voices were low but steady. Not a single one of them seemed afraid. And that steadiness spread even to the Veleron guards standing nearby. As the morning moved toward midday, the colony grew quieter instead of louder. Even the animals that usually wandered the outskirts seemed to be hiding. The wind blew softly, carrying grains of dust across the ground. Then, without warning, the scanners beeped, not the sharp alarm from before, a slow rising tone, a signal that meant one thing: movement. Terrell felt their chest tighten. The governor stiffened. The guards raised their weapons instinctively. Citizens hiding inside their homes heard the faint alarm and froze. The humans quickly gathered around the main scanner, eyes locked on the shifting data. Lines blinked, shapes flickered, and a pulse appeared on the screen, stronger this time, and closer. "It's moving now," one of the humans said. "How fast?" The governor asked nervously. "Not running," the human replied, "but steady. Directly toward us." Terrell swallowed hard. "Is it one? Or more?" Another human adjusted the settings. Multiple signals. The guards tensed. The governor's face went pale. "How many?" The humans stared at the screen for a moment. "At least 4, maybe 5. Terrell felt their heartbeat in their throat. "Do they look like the creatures that attacked the outpost?" "No," the human said softly. "This is different." The colony had faced strange life forms, before small ones, unpredictable ones, dangerous ones. But this felt unlike any of those encounters. The humans turned toward the gate. "We're going out," one of them said. The governor blinked in shock. "Out? Are you sure?" "We don't know what's out there." "That's exactly why we have to go," the human replied. "If we wait until it reaches the colony, everyone is at risk." Terrell stepped forward without even thinking. "I want to go with you." The humans looked surprised. One of them spoke gently. "It's dangerous." "I know," Terrell said. "But you've helped us so much. I don't want to hide while you face something alone. I can stay behind you. I can help monitor readings." The humans exchanged glances. They respected courage, even when it came with fear. Finally, one nodded. "Stay close. Do exactly what we say." The gate opened with a slow metallic groan. The humans stepped outside first, scanning the open land. Terrell followed, heart pounding so loudly they could barely hear the wind. The guard tower watched them from above, its lights scanning the plains, but there was still no visible threat. The humans moved in formation, two in front, two on the sides, and one behind. Terrell stayed safely in the middle. They walked forward slowly, each step careful. The ground crunched softly beneath their boots. A few minutes passed, with nothing but wind blowing across the dry ground. Then a shape appeared not far in the distance at first, like a shadow moving against the light. Then another, and another dot. Terrell felt a sharp gasp rise in their throat. What are they?" The humans didn't answer right away. They watched the shapes grow clearer. 4 figures moved toward them, walking slowly but with purpose. They weren't animals. They weren't wild. And they weren't any species the colony had documented before. Their bodies were tall, slender, and covered in smooth plates that reflected the sunlight. Their arms were long, ending in gentle curves instead of claws or sharp edges. Their faces were hidden behind masks that looked more ceremonial than dangerous. The humans raised their scanners. "They're not giving off any hostile readings." "Then why were they scanning us all night?" Terrell whispered. "We're about to find out." The figures stopped when they were still a safe distance away. They stood in a line, silent, unmoving. The air felt heavy, as if the ground itself was holding its breath. One of the humans slowly stepped forward. Not in a threatening way, just enough to show they weren't afraid. A moment passed. Then, one of the tall figures stepped forward as well. The being lifted an arm, not as a warning, but as a gesture. "Peaceful." "Open." The humans lowered their weapons, slightly. Terrell whispered. "Are they trying to communicate?" The human nodded. "Looks like it." The being made a soft, harmonic sound. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't sharp. It sounded almost like a musical note carried by the wind. Terrell blinked. "I've never heard anything like that." The human responded calmly, speaking slowly and clearly. "We don't understand your language, but we are not here to harm you." The tall figure tilted its head slightly, then made another soft tone. The human scanners picked up small vibrations in the air, translating them into basic patterns. "It's trying to understand us," one human said. The being reached into a pouch at its side and took out a small sphere. It glowed faintly with swirling light blue, green, purple. The creature held it out gently. The humans didn't take it. Instead, one of them touched their chest in a gesture of respect, then extended a hand slowly. The being stepped closer and placed the glowing sphere into the human's palm. Terrell's breath caught. "They're giving you something?" The human studied the sphere. "It's a memory core, not a weapon." The being lifted its hand again, pointing at the horizon, then at the sphere, then at the colony. Terrell whispered. "It's warning us." The human nodded. "I think so too." The being stepped back, along with the others. They moved in unison, like a single group with a shared purpose. After a few steps, they stopped. One lifted its hand again, making a soothing, almost sad sound. Then they turned and walked away, back toward the plains, back into the distance, back into the unknown. The humans in Terrell stood frozen until the figures disappeared completely. Only then did the humans turn back toward the colony. Terrell's voice trembled. What does it mean? Why would they warn us? The human held the glowing sphere tightly. Because something else is coming. Terrell felt their legs weaken. Something worse? The human nodded slowly, eyes dark with understanding. They weren't scanning us to attack. Then why? To protect themselves. To protect us. To make sure we're ready. Terrell whispered, barely audible. Ready for what? The human turned toward the plains, where the wind carried only silence now, for whatever frightened them. The colony didn't sleep that night. The humans began studying the memory core, working through every pattern and pulse it contained. Citizens gathered in quiet groups, whispering about the tall figures and their warning. But one truth had become clear. The humans were not just protectors anymore. They were part of the colony's survival. And when the next unknown threat arrived, and everyone understood one would come, they would not face it alone. Because when the colony needed all eyes, they had gotten something far better. They got humans. They got Deathworlders. And Deathworlders always answered the call.